Sarah Silverman, the comedian, is an interesting person. I have such an ambivalent relationship with her. On one hand, I think that she is as cute as a button, and I appreciate her humor on many levels. Sometimes she goes a little too far, a little bit too raunchy for my preference, but I appreciate her. Although I do disagree with her on many topics as it relates to domestic issues here in the United States. However, I have to say there's a couple really good things that I really appreciate about her, and I want to share. The main thing is that on her podcast, probably a couple weeks ago, she started talking about a national divorce. The red and the blue states, the conservatives, the leftists, going their separate ways amicably. And I really like the fact that a really mainstream entertainer used her platform to bring this idea to the fore. Now, Sarah Silverman is actually from my state, New Hampshire, the live free or die state, a state that is, at least in the Northeast, a little bit out of its culture as it relates to the other northeastern states, which are very, very, very leftist in their orientation. New Hampshire really is kind of the Texas of the Northeast. And there's a lot of really cool stuff happening here in New Hampshire, and I can get back to that in a minute. But she is originally from New Hampshire, and just like many other secular Jews, she falls on the more leftist, liberal side of the spectrum. But I think she also is feeling the tension in the country and is looking for solutions. And one of the solutions is that it's time for people who no longer want to be with each other to go their separate ways. And to use her words, a national divorce. I would like to use a different word, or a set of words, decentralization, balkanization, but my favorite one is secession. And in fact, I've done a whole review on the book American Secession by F.H. Buckley. You can go back in my catalog and see it. It's all there for free. You can check it out. I think there is a path to do this in a very, very peaceful way. And one of the ways that could happen is for each person in their own community, in their own county and state, to work to put this question on the ballot every November. Every November. And the question is this: should we stay in this union? And that question needs to be affirmatively answered. Should we stay in this union? If yes, then we stay, status quo. And if no, it's time to go. I think that if the burden of staying in this union is put to the question every year, that we'll either put the effort that we need to keep this together, or we'll go our separate ways. It's really the same thing as a divorce. A marriage, like anything else, needs to be tended to. You know, it's like a garden. It needs to be weeded. It needs to be watered. It needs to be fed. And it needs to be evaluated to make sure that it's working properly, that both parties are equally invested in making this thing go forward. And I think that if we as individuals could start to put this on a ballot every November, it will force us to think about how much we're investing, or we should invest, or no longer want to invest in this national entity called a federal government, which by any objective measure, right and left agrees, is not working for the benefit of all. Sarah Silverman, living in California or wherever else she lives, I assume she lives in California, doesn't want her experience to be governed by people in Mississippi. And people in Texas don't want their experience to be governed by people in New York. It just shouldn't be. The founders never envisioned that a nation of 330 million people would be ruled by a star chamber called the Supreme Court, or relative handful of quote unquote representatives that are bought and sold by corporations. And just like people in California through the Calexit movement, or in Vermont as the second Vermont Republic are pushing forward, those are leftist movements in very, very blue states. And there are movements in places like Texas. Texas, all the places I've mentioned have been are places where secession has been put to a question, and it in the past has garnered a third of the state maybe kind of thought about it. That is growing. That is growing on both sides of the political aisle, because everybody's observing that a federal government is just not working, and that there are people in this country, the so-called country, that are not interested in living in the same way. There was a time when there was a common culture in America, but that common culture is no longer. We do not have a ethnic ethnic ties that bind us. We don't have really even cultural ties that bind us anymore. At best, we have economic ties that bind us. And with a government that's growing at $30 trillion plus, those economic binds are becoming frayed. And we are pushing off obligations of responsibility and paying those obligations off onto our generations, decades from now. So the question becomes: is it something that we can that we should even participate in? We're the Federalists, right? Is this government responsive to the needs of its people? Does it reflect of, by, and for the people? And a discussion could be made that all of those questions are that it's just not acting in that way anymore. It's just not. And so as soon as we can come to that reality, we might be able to say, okay, well, it's just not. It lived its usefulness. It's no longer realistic that a country of 330 million people is sort of ruled from this one centralized place where 50 plus 1 controls everything. It's not of, by, and for the people. So let's see if we can change that. And one way we can change that is through affirmative actions like putting secession on the ballot. Another way we can do it is by voting with our feet. And one great example of that I wish would have more airplay, but I'd like to highlight it here, is the New Hampshire Free State Project. And if you're interested in looking at that, you can go to www.fsp.org, fsp.org. And, in a nutshell, it was and is an idea that people of like-minded orientation, liberty-oriented people could move to one place where they could actually have an effect on the government, a government that is pro-liberty already and could only continue to be pro-liberty, New Hampshire, and live in accordance with values that support freedom. And I'm happy to say, as a New Hampshire resident, that the government, the state government of New Hampshire, is very liberty-oriented. And I encourage you to do your own research to see that I'm telling you that. Now, yes, the federal delegation of senators and representatives to the House of Representatives is blue, because there is some influence of Massachusetts on New Hampshire, and there's a lot of outside money that comes in to flush the state for those candidates. But truly, New Hampshire is a place where it's pretty close to being a liberty-minded place, as much as one could expect in the northeast of the United States. So I encourage you to look into that. I am a Free State Project participant, and I am very, very happy about the fact that people that have moved here that have made a positive impact on the state government. It's actually happening. And I left a state, you may even be able to tell from my example, from my accent, is I'm originally from New York State. A place that is devolving rapidly into a leftist, progressive, neo-utopian hellhole where a governor, not elected, elected as lieutenant governor until Cuomo left, is now proclaiming to people that the C vaccine is a gift from God, and that people listening to her voice should be her apostle and spread the word that this is a gift from God. It's just very strange language for a secular leader to be using. So there's a lot here, but one of the things what I want you to leave with is a place like New Hampshire is a relatively small state where one's vote, one's political influence is better felt. It's a smaller government. And for one who wants less government, more individual freedom, a place like New Hampshire really works. And the Free State Project is a great way to do that. However, if you're not willing to come to a place like New Hampshire and support those values, you can make an effect on your own state, or you can move to a nearby state that is in more accordance with your values. I would say that trying locally to put secession on the ballot of your state is a really, really good thing to do. I'm doing that myself here in New Hampshire. New Hampshire exit, NH exit, is something that I'm doing locally, because I'd love to see a place like New Hampshire be an independent country. I think it will be one day, as a matter of fact. It was a republic in the past, as was Vermont next door, and it will be. I think it will be again when the federal behemoth ends. At a minimum, by organizing locally towards that end, you may find that you meet up with some really, really great people. And even if you live in a liberal place like Massachusetts or New York, where your influence is not as great, and secession may not be on the ballot in the near future, well, it's a great way to network and meet up with other like-minded people. And isn't that really what it's all about at the end? That networking function, meeting up with like-minded individuals for mutual support and aid, whether it's political or any other reason, there's value to that. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to take positive, proactive steps to do that. I know that it feels a little bit overwhelming right now if you're paying attention. The political situation, cultural situation, spiritual situation feels a little bit out of control. But here's the good news. We've just gone through almost 2 years of a constant stream of propaganda. And there's millions of people that are resisting. Millions of people. Think about that. Constant propaganda. And it's giving everyone an opportunity to come against a challenge that forces them to make decisions, make choices, and come to evaluate their relationship with truth and freedom. So that's good. That's a good thing. And at least here in the United States, the march towards authoritarianism is present, but not as aggressive as it might be in a place like Australia, as an example, because we have an armed population. And I think it's very clear that the people in the United States are not willing, nor should they ever be willing, to give up, register their firearms, because the founders knew that there would be a time like this when government would overstep its bounds and the population would potentially need those arms to fight back against an authoritarian, tyrannical government. There's a lot of wisdom in that Bill of Rights that was created so many years ago. It's not just for hunting. It's not for hunting. It's nice to hunt, perhaps, but that's not what the Second Amendment is about. So there's a lot to think about here. I'm going to end it. We're almost at 15 minutes, so I will end it here. I encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to share this video with someone that you care about. I'd like to bring them into the conversation, and I would love some comments in the comments section, good, bad, or ugly, of your reaction to what I'm saying, I think it'll be very interesting to have that dialogue. I thank you very much for your interest and your engagement, and I look forward to providing the next report to you soon. Stay free.